What are some really dangerous things most people don't realize are dangerous? Story 1. If you need someone's attention while they're using heavy equipment in a non-emergency situation, let them finish before getting their attention. I work as a meat cutter. When I'm cutting something on the bandsaw, I have my back turned to the counter. A lot of customers expect to get service immediately as soon as they walk up to the counter. So I'm cutting something and they immediately make a loud noise to get my attention, like picking up a metal signpost and banging it on the floor or slamming the counter. It surprises me, making me flinch depending on how loud it is. With my fingers inches away from a saw that easily passes through the thickest of cow bones, I don't care how important your dinner date steak is. If I lose my hand, I will do my most damn to punch you in the face with my bloody stump. Additional info since I received a lot of comments about it. I am not alone. I have at least one other coworker working the counter. No, the bandsaw is not next to the service counter. The amount of bone dust, yes, just like sawdust, produced would make it very difficult to keep the front area clean. I work in a back area that is separated by a low wall and a large open bay window. That's where we do all the meat production. That's where we contain all the bone dust, blood, rendered fat, and other things that come with meat cutting. Also, that area is refrigerated. We have 2 massive cooling units on the ceiling with a total of 8 fans. It doesn't keep the production refrigerator cold, but it does keep it around 50 degrees Fahrenheit on average. Because of these loud fans, I can't hear my coworkers when they're talking at normal levels to someone in the front. I can hear voices, but can't distinguish what's being said. And that should give everyone an idea of how loud these are. I can hear it extremely loud over the fans, loud bandsaw, and bones being sawed. Story 2. Chiropractors. I was born with quite a severe scoliosis. It was cheaper to go to a chiropractor than an actual doctor growing up. This has resulted in significant damage to my back. When I finally got in to see a spinal specialist, he mentioned that upwards of 45% of his long-term patients were there because of chiropractors. He told me after reviewing years of my x-rays that the adjustments I was receiving actually made my spine worse than if I were to have not done anything. It is also pretty common for chiropractors to break bones. There were a few people that went to my doctor that were paralyzed by a chiropractor. When I was 16, a chiropractor did an adjustment that caused one of the discs in my spine to rupture. I also had my hip dislocated at one point. So yeah, chiropractors are not real doctors and can cause a lot of harm. Reply 1. I remember seeing some video by a chiropractor who said that all babies suffer birth trauma and get misaligned coming out of the birth canal, and that all delivery rooms should have a chiro in there who can do adjustments on a literal newborn baby pretty much as soon as they cut the umbilical cord. I mean, even as someone with no medical training, that sounds sus as f. Reply 2. Lady I worked with had a baby who always had its head cocked to the side. The old doc at the time said he just had a tight neck muscle and to send him to a chiro for babies. She took the baby to a chiro who did an adjustment. No x-rays, nothing was done. The baby actually had a herniated disc, and when the adjustment was performed, it snapped back in place and severed the spinal cord. The baby died on the table the chiro did the adjustment on. Doc got off on a technicality that he recommended a chiro. It's not his responsibility to check for a super rare condition. The chiro got off on a similar technicality in that the mom didn't ask for x-rays and it wasn't standard for babies. Wow, I had no idea that chiropractors could cause such harm, especially to those with conditions like scoliosis. It's disheartening to think that people seeking relief might end up in a worse condition due to improper treatment. Your experience is a powerful reminder to always do thorough research before trusting someone with our health. It's crucial to consult with medical professionals and specialists to ensure we're making the right choices for our well-being. Thanks for sharing your story. It's an eye-opener and might help others think twice before choosing alternative treatments without proper guidance. Stay strong, and I hope you find the right care for your back. Story 3. Ever since I did WHMIS training, a foreign worker essentially making chlorine gas by accident in dry cleaners and almost everyone in the building and actually doing it to herself. Everyone who was exposed had permanent damage. There was a welder who didn't realize the chemical his work gave him had fumes that would burn off his eyes and face after just one use without face and eye protection. It cost him his marriage and his entire future. In the video, he said he didn't even blame her, as there was no hope for him, and he didn't want to burden his then young wife with having to look after someone completely broken. And I think there was a driveway sealant part-timer who was a high schooler or something. They didn't give him any safety gear, and he got cancer applying the sealant after the fact, and what could have been done differently, and it was just scarring. It's such a simple thing to trust your job to check chemical safety for you, but goddamn, if they didn't, you can be royally I can't imagine just opening a barrel of something my boss told me to open and literally having my corneas burned out of my face. I also switched out many of my cleaners and detergents in my home to safer options wherever I could. Even if something like ice melts, I check to see for warning and safety labels. Reply 1. The blasé attitude a lot of workers have towards safety regulations is bizarre. Even if a regulation doesn't make sense or doesn't seem to apply to your situation, 95% of the time, they take barely any time or effort to follow. What do you lose by playing it safe? Managers pressuring their workers to work fast and cut corners is a big deal, of course, and I can't necessarily blame the workers in those situations. But I meet a lot of people who snub their nose at safety regulations with no one pressuring them. Story 4. Cutting food with dull knives. A lot of people are scared of cutting themselves with knives, which is valid. However, they don't realize that you're more likely with a dull knife. A sharp knife will slice right through a tomato, but with a dull knife, you have to really push. If you push too hard, it can slip, and then you're going to have a bad time. Story 5. Gasoline. People put it in their cars every day, so they don't realize how volatile it is. YouTube is full of videos of people pouring gasoline on a campfire or pouring it in a garbage can and sticking a match to it, only to find themselves sitting on their asses a half-second later, eyebrows singed off and flash burns on their faces and hands, if they're lucky. It's explosive. It's not like lighter fluid for your barbecue grill. Yeah, it's shocking to think that something as common as gasoline can be so dangerous if misused. Your mention of those YouTube videos really highlights the need for people to be aware of the risks involved when handling flammable substances. It's a stark reminder that we should never underestimate the power of seemingly everyday items and always prioritize safety. Story 6. Based on my experience later on, the road. Merging without looking or using your blinkers. I was literally almost pushed off the road recently. Some decided to merge onto my lane without even a glance. Would have rammed right into the side of my car if I hadn't honked a ton. Seriously, people, don't just look in the mirror. See if there's a car right next to you before merging. Reply 1. There was a guy in front of me one day who blew through a red light. He slammed on the brakes midway through and then flew in reverse to come back to where he was supposed to stop. I had to lay on the horn for a good 20 seconds so he would stop backing up and almost hit me, and then when the light changed, he still wouldn't go. That was the closest I've ever felt like someone was going to hit me. I need to invest in a dash cam. Reply 2. I backed into a rental car at a stop sign once. Luckily, really low speed, so only a minor streak of paint damage. The lady I backed into was having a really bad week and just lost it. She insisted on calling the police and filing a report, despite my admitting fault, so I waited there and admitted fault to the officer. I understand why she insisted, but I would have gladly written and signed something admitting fault and handed it to her. Cop wouldn't even write up an accident report, because in his words, there is no damage to either vehicle. Instead, he issued some kind of call report or something. I had offered to pay out of pocket for any rental damage fees or costs she might incur, and I called her that night to offer again. She was a total space cadet and just didn't know. Anyway, never heard another thing about it. Never backed up at a light or stop sign again. Story 7. As a chef, it's food. I've seen people who cook at home with some very dangerous cooking habits. Everything from not washing hands after handling raw meat, it's all raw proteins, people, not just chicken, to not cooling leftovers properly, and even proper storing procedures. Spoiler alert, don't store raw chicken above the salad you plan to serve with it. Those juices can drip down and contaminate everything. Personally, I think everyone needs to take a class on proper food handling, for their safety and everyone's safety for whom they plan on cooking. I couldn't agree more with your point on the importance of proper food handling. It's alarming to think that some basic yet critical practices, such as washing hands after handling raw meat or storing food correctly, can be overlooked by so many people. Your perspective as a chef really emphasizes the need for everyone to be educated on food safety, not just for their own well-being, but for those they cook for as well. Your suggestion of taking a class on proper food handling is a fantastic idea and could help prevent numerous foodborne illnesses. Story 8. I'm an avid skier. I was just skiing in Colorado at Loveland, and it's absolutely insane to me how people will click into their skis with little idea how to actually ski, and very little idea where any given run will go, and just go. If you point your skis downhill and let them go on a moderate pitch, you can get up over 30 miles per hour without trying to. There are so few things that people will do at that speed without knowing exactly what they're doing. And to be clear, the people who are put in danger are not just the Jerrys who don't ski within their ability level, it's also everyone else around them. I watched a fully grown man absolutely destroy a woman this past weekend because he was out of control through a trail merge. The woman never even saw him coming and had no way to protect herself. Reply 1. Way back when I was 18, I was skiing and came up behind an older guy on a snowboard. I was going substantially faster than him. He was on the right side of the trail, so I drifted left to give him some space and pass him. Out of nowhere, he cut straight across the trail, and I went right into him. I put my hands up and just pushed him over onto his back, but I went tumbling. Full yard sail. Got up and helped him up, apologizing profusely, thinking I was about to get sued. He said he was fine and chuckled that I wasn't the first person to hit him that day. I no longer felt bad after that, but to this day, don't know if it was more my fault or his. Got him on his way and went to gather my stuff and realized I couldn't pick up my skis with my right hand. Broken wrist. Story 9. Kitten bites. If a kitten has unclean teeth and bites you to the point you draw blood, there's a decent chance you can get a major infection and die. Their teeth are like little needles that inject bacteria right into your blood, and since their teeth are so thin, you heal from the bite really fast. However, your body never had a chance to clean the bacteria before the wound closed, so the rate of infection is crazy high. Story 10. Noise-canceling headphones while walking in cities. You need to be able to hear your surroundings to react properly. Can easily walk into traffic or get swiped by a bike if you're tuning out the world. The newest AirPod commercial shows a woman walking through an empty city intersection with her headphones on, then shows all the chaos return when she takes one out. Not safe. It's important to be aware of your surroundings in dense areas. Reply 1. I've got some fancy headphones that do transparent mode. It's crazy. Press a button and you got ambience piped in. Press it again and silence. I cycle with them evenly and can hear just as well or better than without them. Story 11. I had a college chemistry professor that was extremely intelligent. Freshmen hated his class because it was dull and difficult, and the only other classes he taught were the analytical instrumentation ones. And we found out he was actually a cool guy with the right prodding. When talking about analytical techniques and specific ratios, circumstances, dust explosions came up, and we eventually talked him into letting us replicate one in the lab, and he was smart enough to figure out how to do it and make it relevant to our lesson. And we had more fun in class because we figured out how to blow things up in a class about careful measurements and properly using machines. A few weeks later, we handmade our own gunpowder and compared slightly different ratios of ingredients. Fun times. Your story about your chemistry professor and the dust explosions experiment is both fascinating and enlightening. It's amazing how someone who may initially come across as dull can turn out to be incredibly engaging when given the right opportunity. The fact that you were able to experience hands-on learning and have fun while doing so is a testament to the power of unconventional teaching methods. It's important to remember that there's more to a subject than what meets the eye, and sometimes it takes a bit of prodding to uncover the excitement hidden within. Story 12. One person brought up the dangers of mixing cleaning products, particularly ammonia and bleach. The combination creates toxic fumes that can be lethal when inhaled. I was surprised to learn this, as I had often used both products to clean my bathroom. I had never considered the potential risk involved in combining them. The conversation continued, and another guest mentioned the dangers of vending machines. Though they seem harmless, there have been instances of people being crushed while trying to dislodge a stubborn snack. I was taken aback, as I had never imagined such a common item could be so dangerous. A third guest chimed in, warning everyone about the perils of holding in a sneeze. Suppressing a sneeze could cause a range of issues, from ruptured blood vessels to broken ribs. I laughed nervously, realizing I was guilty of holding in sneezes on many occasions, unaware of the potential consequences. The dinner party continued, but the conversation had a lasting impact on me. I found myself reflecting on the hidden dangers in everyday life and how little I knew about them. The next day, I began researching more about these seemingly harmless things and making adjustments to ensure my safety and the safety of those around me. I started by replacing the cleaning products in my home with safer, natural alternatives. I also made a conscious effort to be more cautious around vending machines and to allow myself to sneeze freely when the urge struck. The conversation at the dinner party had opened my eyes to the potential hazards lurking in daily life, and it reminded me to never take safety for granted. Story 13. Button batteries. They can be lethal when swallowed, especially by kids. I had no idea that such an everyday item could be so dangerous. Intrigued, I asked him to elaborate, and he explained that button batteries could cause severe internal burns if they came into contact with bodily fluids. My heart raced as I remembered the remote control with loose button batteries sitting on the coffee table at home. I hurried back to my place, anxious to secure the batteries and prevent any potential harm. However, as I entered the living room, I noticed my niece Lily playing nearby. She was visiting for the weekend, and my mind instantly filled with worry, knowing her curious nature. I quickly scanned the area, but the remote control and the batteries were nowhere to be found. "Lily, sweetie, have you seen the remote control?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She looked up at me, her big, innocent eyes full of confusion, and shook her head. I continued searching, my anxiety levels rising. Then I spotted it, half hidden under the couch. I grabbed the remote, and to my relief, the batteries were still inside. Feeling a sudden urge to share my newfound knowledge, I sat down with Lily and gently explained the dangers of button batteries. I showed her the tiny objects and how easily they could be swallowed, making sure she understood the importance of staying away from them. She nodded, her eyes wide with comprehension. Looking back, that simple conversation with Alex not only led me to protect my niece, but also prompted a crucial discussion about safety. Sometimes it's the seemingly innocuous items that hold the greatest potential for harm. So let's keep an eye out for those hidden dangers and educate ourselves and our loved ones on how to stay safe. Story 14. One of my old friends shared a fact that surprised me: unsecured furniture. He told me that every year, several injuries and even fatalities occurred because of furniture toppling over. This was especially dangerous for young children who might try to climb on them. I had never thought of my bookcase or dresser as a potential hazard, but suddenly I felt a twinge of concern. We continued our walk, and I brought up a danger that I had recently read about: dry drowning. This occurs when a person, usually a child, inhales a small amount of water that doesn't cause immediate distress. However, hours later, the person can suddenly experience respiratory problems and require emergency medical attention. Mark's eyes widened in disbelief, as he too had never considered this possibility. As we rounded the corner to my street, Mark mentioned one more danger that seemed unbelievable: autopilot disengagement in modern cars. He explained that while the advanced technology had made driving easier and more efficient, it had also led to over-reliance on these systems. When drivers became too comfortable with their car's capabilities, they risked not being prepared to take over in case of an emergency. It was a chilling thought, as I had often marveled at the convenience of such features. As we parted ways, I felt a newfound appreciation for the hidden dangers in our everyday lives. I took the time to secure my furniture at home, ensuring my bookcases and dressers were anchored to the wall. I also made a mental note to be more vigilant around water and to educate myself on the proper use of my car's advanced features. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future. And also don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.